we tried to, a lot of people wanted to be on the air, and we wanted everybody to have the opportunity to be on the air as long as they were fairly qualified, or we felt that they could learn to be on the air. And actually we would limit people. Some people would want to be on all the time, and we didn't think that was fair. So we put some restrictions on to how long somebody could be on, how many hours a week. And I can't tell you what those were, whether it was 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I mean, there were some students who were really very good. They stepped out of here and stepped into major markets with professional jobs, and they could have been on full time, but that wouldn't have been fair to the other students. But we did have a very professional sounding radio station. We had a very structured format. What people, they knew what they were going to play. Music was categorized. It wasn't free form. Music was all categorized into different types of music. Then on your hourly formula, you were told basically what kind of music could be played at that hour or in that time slot. You know, I believe that the general manager should have the say over just about everything, and then other people execute. I believe that DJs should be given very specific things to do, and within that, part of it's to express their personality at specific times. Most of the students were in the Department of Radio, TV, Film, but others weren't, and they would come in and they'd audition and be interviewed by the program directors and other people working at the stations. I think that we really wanted people that wanted to make a career of it. And we didn't want to be so judgmental to rule out people, because, you know, it's fine to go in and do it well, and then decide you want to follow a different career path. But the overriding principle really was to serve the community and help students that wanted to make a career out of it, to help give them an edge and an education in the real world. Well, the idea was to have a sound that people would listen to, and we thought that the best way was to be competitive with the existing commercial product that was proven, that we wanted music that was going to be popular with the students and with faculty and staff, primarily the students. And back then it was, you know, top 40 rock and roll. And sort of as the 60s evolved, there were other music forms coming into popularity, and we would put them in. And we would do that really like in a magazine programming, where they would have select time periods, and that would be psychedelic music, acid rock, and they might have like 11 to 12 o'clock or 12 after that. And it was really trying to offer something for everyone. We had routine newscasts, as I mentioned to you, like the university news was 25 minutes after the hour, and it was about 2 minutes. And that would tell people on campus and around the campus of events going on, what news actually did happen, upcoming events, and 5 minutes before the hour would be hard news. And that was also meant to be informative, but it was also meant to be as an educational experience for students in broadcast journalism or journalism that wanted to go into journalism.
Now we have public
We
service
did public service announcements. We were not allowed to take any commercials or sponsorships. The FCC did not allow it back then, which would have been a lot easier if they had, because it would have been a way of raising funds. But we would play PSAs from like the Peace Corps, all different sorts of groups, and those would substitute for commercials. The idea too was to play more music. You know, we didn't want to be like an AM station. Back then, WQAM was the predominant radio station. I think at one point they had 60% of the listening audience. We didn't want that. We wanted to have more music where people could hear music and not hear disc jockeys talking all the time, announcers talking all the time. And most of the announcers didn't have that much to say that you'd want to hear them talk all the time. We did not sponsor concerts. We did not have the money to sponsor concerts. We tried to tie in with them when we could and interview the people that did come. I remember we would interview people like the Grassroots, who you may never have heard of, but they were pretty big. I think they had 20 top 10 hits. And if they were coming to campus to perform, we would do interviews, and then we try to tie that into programming. If there were politicians coming to campus or famous speakers, we would try to get interviews and slip them on, whether it's Sunday morning programs or into newscasts. We tried to run it as much as possible as a professional station, not a student station. Would have liked to expand into sports more than baseball, but I think it was great that we could broadcast baseball games live all the way back in 1969. I mean, that was really special. Would have loved to have done it for all the sports. But back then, the cost of broadcasting a game was so much more expensive than today. You had to have special balance phone lines put in by the phone company, and it was very expensive. And then, the cost of air travel if you were going to another city. I mean, it just would have been prohibitive, and there wasn't that kind of budget at the station. We had a lot of guests back then. I remember we had Gene McCarthy when he was running for president of the United States. He was very much opposed to the war in Vietnam. And you'd really have to be from that era where you saw tens of thousands of students and people from the community walking down South Dixie Highway with candles in their hands singing "Give Peace a Chance," shutting down the road.